conclusions of Project Blue Book were: 1. No UFO reported, investigated, and evaluated by the Air Force has ever given any indication of threat to our national security. 2. There is no evidence submitted that sightings categorized as unidentified represent technological developments or principles beyond the range of present-day scientific knowledge. And 3, there is no evidence indicating that these unidentified objects are extraterrestrial.
Neither the Air Force nor the CIA is investigating UFOs now, and officials do not like to talk about the subject.
Well, the Air Force position is that we investigated UFOs for 22 years, over 12,000 sightings.
Colonel Don Burgrave, U.S. Air Force.
About 95% of all the UFOs were explainable. They were weather phenomenon, they were balloons, they were airplanes, they were lightning. And we concluded as a result of our investigations, which was carried out very scientifically, that 1, there was no threat to the security of the United States, and there was no evidence that we could ever locate that an extraterrestrial vehicle had landed.
When CNN recently asked the Air Force about the possible existence of movie film of the Bentwaters UFO, the official Air Force response was, the United States Air Force stopped investigating UFOs in 1969.
There was no evidence of threat to national security. There was no evidence that we had been visited by extraterrestrial vehicles. And finally, there was no evidence that after evaluating these UFO sightings that there was any indication of scientific knowledge, the existence of scientific knowledge beyond the present state of...
But the Air Force says this closes the book on extraterrestrials who were no more than high-altitude dummies testing parachutes.
Typical test dummy used by the Air Force during the 1950s.
The Air Force showed movies of crash test dummies, insisting this is what people saw when they reported alien bodies in a flying saucer over Roswell, New Mexico in 1947.
To goodness reminds me of some people's obsession with UFOs and the Hale-Bopp comet some days. There's no reason for that. There's no evidence of that. There will not be evidence of that.
We cannot substantiate the existence of UFOs, and we are not harboring remains of UFOs.
Good to see you, sir. If you're elected president, will you finally trust the people enough to tell them about UFOs, what the story is? Half the public believes that they are real. Would you finally tell us what the hell's going on?
Sure, I will. Since the statement made by George Bush last July, there's been a vicious rumor circulating in the UFO community that you've been read into the UFO program. So my question to you is, in any of your government jobs, have you ever been briefed on the subject of UFOs? And if you have, when was it and what were you told?
Well, if I had been briefed on that, I'm sure it was probably classified and I couldn't talk about it.
Another petition, this one with 12,000 signatories, reads, formally acknowledge an extraterrestrial presence engaging the human race. The White House responded. Phil Larson, at the Office of Science and Technology Policy, wrote in part, thank you for signing the petition asking the Obama administration to acknowledge an extraterrestrial presence here on Earth. The U.S. government has no evidence that any life exists outside our planet or that an extraterrestrial presence has contacted or engaged any member of the human race. In addition, there's no credible information to suggest that any evidence is being hidden from the public eye.
I also wondered if you saw that New York Times story yesterday about Mrs. Clinton promising to get to the bottom of the UFO and Area 51 conspiracies. And I wondered if the president would like to beat her to the punch by, showing his degree of transparency on this issue, which is of concern to a lot of Americans.
Yeah. I have to admit I don't have a tab in my briefing book for Area 51 today.
Or a joke.
Or a joke. Maybe it has. Part of a grand conspiracy. I'm not aware of any plans the president has to make public any information about this.